Hi everyone, this is audap. Let's continue our game of Napoleon Maiden running on Nintendo Switch. Incredibly well translated visual novel. Napoleon Bonaparte, who was completely taken in by Murat, suddenly turned away. Napoleon Bonaparte turned her heel back as soon as she shouted. I spoke to her in a hurry. In an angry tone to the end, Napoleon Bonaparte left this message and went around the corner of the corridor. Murat said to me, who was staring blankly at Napoleon's back, I remember being close to Napoleon Bonaparte on the bench until a while ago. Murat laughed at me then. I like how it's always like the full name. Like, is there going to be like another Napoleon in this story? Because that's the only character where the full name, or it has to be the full name every single time. I mean, it's not Joaquin Murat.
No,
Japanese need baths after all. When I think about it, I suddenly miss the bath and I start to step on the ground. I was delighted and started to run for the direction where Napoleon Bonaparte left to. I was completely oblivious at this point. I totally forgot, although it is a different world, that this is Paris. That it's not the kind of facility that I imagined, which I imagined it would be like a large public bath with the men and women signs. I got to the back of the first floor of the headquarters. There are two doors at the end, and the smell of steam wafted from both sides. There was no one around. Does this mean no one takes baths at this hour? I pushed the left door slowly. Beyond the door was a small washroom and dressing room. I just take my clothes and get ready for the bath. Towels are carefully stocked, so I don't have to worry. And then it was when I opened the door where the steam was leaking. A hum of good humor came from behind the steam. When I opened the door, the steam cleared up. And there was... In the cat-foot bathtub, there was a naked Napoleon Bonaparte soaking comfortably in the bath. And it was too late. I've seen it. Her skin looks like a ball of vermilion from being warmed in hot water. Drops of water from her neck to her back shone through the skylight. What you can see between her white arm and her soft-looking upper arm is a mellow roundness peculiar to women. Above all, her defenseless expression caught my eye. Napoleon Bonaparte shakes her shoulders despite me being stunned,
そこで何してるのよ。
and her angry voice echoes in the ballroom. I was shocked like a thunderbolt hit me and came back to it myself. I realized that both men and women were facing each other naked.
いや、これには深い理由が。
変態変態変態。こっちを見るな。お前も体を見せるな。
Napoleon Bonaparte splashes hot water to me. It was terrible for a body that wasn't used to the temperature yet.
熱い、あちちち、やめて、待て、話せばわかる。
わかるか、この愚か者。いいから出ていけ。
わかった、わかったから物を投げるのはやめろ。
She throws the hard soap at me. I left the bathroom with my body, which is not now temped up.
はあ、昼間は散々な目にあったな。
I looked out of the window with a sigh. There was already a night book on the streets of Paris.
そういえば、夜の仕事を手伝いとか言われてたな。
罰として、正一、お前は世の夜の執務に付き合いなさい。そうね、雑用でもしてもらおうかしら。
ねえ、昼間あんなことがあったばっかりだけど、すっぽかすともっと大変なことになりそうだ。
No way to escape. I should go. I made my decision and left my room. It's a large military headquarters, but I know where Napoleon Bonaparte's office is. Anyway, this is where I was first brought in. I was frowning in front of the door. It's the scene in the bathroom during the day that comes back to me now. Even though I am now in this impossible world, Napoleon Bonaparte is the person I am having connection with. I was lucky that I was not to be executed. I'm sure she's still angry. When I was getting more and more astringent.
あら、正一くんじゃない。
Murda came from the back of the corridor. She has a silver tray in her hands. On the tray were covered pottery dishes and 3 slices of bread in a small basket.
ミュラさん、それは何ですか？
ああ、これはナポレオンの夕食よ。まったくあの子ったら、こうして持っていかないと食事を取るのさえ忘れてしまうんだから。
She looks like she's already looking like a mother. Murda stared at me and eventually smiled meaningfully.
そうだわ、正一くん。これをナポレオンに届けてくれない？
え、俺ですか？
ええ。こう見えても私も副官として忙しくてね。できればお願いしたいわ。
いや、でももうすぐそこまで持ってきて。
つべこべ言わない。
え？
She handed me a silver tray. I didn't even have time to stop Murda.
じゃあよろしく。
Murda walked away, waving her hand. I kept looking at the door and the tray. The little pottery dish smells sweet. It looks like soup. Yes, well, I'll have to deliver dinner if she doesn't eat. I turned around to Napoleon Bonaparte's office. I managed to hold the tray in one hand, knock on the door, then call out through the door.
おーい、ナポレオン。俺だ、正一だ。夕飯を持ってきたぞ。
Her reply did not come immediately. I waited patiently until I heard a muffled voice coming from behind the door.
入りなさい。
Even through the door, I could tell she's in a bad mood. I was frightened for a moment, but I decided to go in since just standing here will hurt my pride as a man. I twisted the doorknob and opened the door. There was Napoleon Bonaparte sitting at a big desk and writing down something on paper.
何の用？
She looked down and didn't even look at me. I held back that I wanted to turn around, and I stepped on towards her with the tray in my hands.
ミュラさんが夕食を持ってきてくれたぞ。
見たところ、お前一人のようだけど。
いや、そこでいきなり押し付けられてたな。
Napoleon Bonaparte bounces on the document aggressively, but the papers were away to the corner, just as I was not welcome here. Napoleon Bonaparte reaches for the next document, but there are piles of paper there. I wonder if there is still so much work left. No wonder she doesn't have time to sleep. I walked up to Napoleon Bonaparte with great sympathy.
なあ、少し休憩しないか？腹減ってるだろ？
空腹を覚える間もないわ。
そんなこと言わずに、スープが冷めちまうぞ。
構わないわ。そこに置いておきなさい。
Does her abrupt remark really come from busyness, or from a daytime accident? I got weak suddenly and looked down.
なあ、昼間のこと、悪かったよ。お前が入ってるだなんて思わなかったんだ。
そんな言い訳、通用しないわ。
Napoleon Bonaparte's eyes saw me for the first time, but with a keen eye.
だでしょ。
え？
見たでしょ。世の裸を。どうしてくれるのよ。
ねえ、どうしてって。そりゃ、お前が許してくれるまで、誠心誠意謝るしか。
謝ってどうこうなる問題じゃないわ。
そんな、どうしたらいいんだよ。
パスカル曰く、人間は考える足なのよ。そんなこと自分で考えなさい。
It's not that I don't have any resistance, but I'm the one to blame. Holding back my dissatisfaction, I thought desperately. And then?
わかった。じゃあ、お前とこれから一緒に飯を食べる。
は？なんですって？
飯は一人より二人で食った方がうまいんだ。ちょっと待ってろ。ちゃんと待ってたか？
I brought my own meal in the tray. Napoleon Bonaparte had her blank face.
待ってたも何も仕事をしていたわよ。
そうか。じゃあ、今って。
ちょっと待ちなさい。
I tear the quill held by Napoleon Bonaparte's white fish-like fingers, take her hand and force her to stand up from the chair. I brought my meal to the table set in the corner of the room. I let her sit in a table-set chair, and I sit opposite.
いただきます。
When I put my hands together, she rounded her eyes.
それは一体何？
ああ、俺が元いたところの慣習だよ。食べる前、食べ物に感謝すんの。
感謝するのは神にでしょ？何を言っているのよ。
Right, the French is Christian. Since I entered the town, I was wondering if I should follow the town. Napoleon Bonaparte smiled with a bitter smile.
まあいいわ。世だってそんな熱心な教徒というわけではないしね。今夜だけはお前のやり方に合わせてあげるわ。
Then Napoleon Bonaparte put her hands together, imitating what she saw.
いただきます。で、いいのかしら？
No.
I'm kind of happy, and a smile comes to me naturally. Napoleon Bonaparte wanders around her gaze for some reason. She opened the pottery lid. With steam, soup appears. It was a soup made by boiling finely chopped vegetables. Napoleon Bonaparte, with an elegant gesture, scooped the soup with a spoon and brought it to her mouth.
おいしい。温かいものを食べたのなんて何ヶ月ぶりかしら。
月単位かよ。
それに関しては反論はしないわ。
Well, there is something surprisingly straightforward of her. When I inadvertently give a bitter smile, Napoleon Bonaparte quickly looked down.
それにこうして誰かと食べるのも久しぶりよ。仕事を抜きにすればこっちは年単位かもしれないわ。
それはそれは。でも、一人で冷めた飯食べるよりいいだろう。
まあ悪くは それよりお前も喋ってばかりいないで食べなさい。
ああ、そうだな。
I said, and I drink soup. This.
何の味もしないぞ。
I don't feel any flavor, let alone salt. For example, it's like vegetables in hot water. No, it's just as it is. Napoleon Bonaparte tilted her head.
何言ってるの？こんなものでしょ？
せめて塩振りたいな。
小一の郷土料理は随分味が濃いのね。
いや、これが味なさすぎだろ。
As a Japanese, even miso melts. I want to make miso soup. I regained my mind and reached for the bread. The firm feel is the so-called French bread. It is sliced into 3 pieces.
こりゃうまいな。
Is it really the home? You can feel the taste of flour firmly. The butter flavor is also rich. Then Napoleon Bonaparte proudly said,
パリのパンは世界一よ。間違いないわ。
確かに近所のパン屋とは比べ物にならない。
お前の国、ジパングにもパンがあるの？
I tilted her head and she asked. I was stuck in words for a moment. Maybe not in Japan at this time. No, I can't help but say the details.
のあったぞ。俺のおすすめはメロンパンだ。
メロンパン？メロンが入ってるの？
いや、
I muddied my words and smiled dry. Suddenly, around the bakery, the scenery of the neighborhood comes to my mind. A familiar school route, a school I'm tired of seeing. Every day that doesn't look good. But when I think about it now, it may have been a precious day. I bought melon bread with kubata at a bakery. I remember the day I went home with him while eating. I threw my distant eyes out the window.
俺、帰れるよな。
It was like a soliloquy in the middle. A word that came out unconsciously and casually. Napoleon Bonaparte seemed to pick up by ear.
お前、帰るつもりなの？
いや、そりゃ帰りたいよ。
そう。
Napoleon Bonaparte chews the torn bread and chews it.
その前に余命者として世の引いてはフランスの役に立ってもらうけど。
いや、だから俺その余命者じゃないと思うんだけど。
何言ってるの？こんな怪しいなりのやつがただの人であるはずがないわ。
怪しいってそりゃないだろう。
Napoleon Bonaparte squints and laughs. She looked like a girl of her age, and I thought she was cute. I'm about to drop a piece of bread at the sight. What is it? Why am I so uncomfortable? The other party is that tall Napoleon Bonaparte.
お前、何目を白黒させているの？
いや、別に。
I hurriedly dropped my gaze on my hand. I ate dinner quickly. The details that the soup doesn't taste anymore were blown my head. I finished my meal and faced her.
ごちそうさま。
これもお前の故郷の慣習？
そうだよ。
わかったわ。ごちそうさま。
Napoleon Bonaparte, holding hands in front of empty tableware. Her obedient attitude makes my heart flutter again. I cheat the unknown emotions that were born to me, and I stood up vigorously.
さーて、食器を片付けてくるかな。その後はお前が言ってた雑用とやらを引き受けてやるよ。
わかってるじゃない。いい心がけね。
Napoleon Bonaparte folded her arms and nodded satisfactorily.
なら食堂へ行くついでにミュラのところに行って。 決済済みの書類を渡してほしいの。
She gets up and goes back to the desk where she works, and Napoleon Bonaparte holds a large amount of paperwork.
あとこれは別のところね。渡す先は書類の一番上に書いてあるから、わかるでしょ？
いや、俺、フランス語なんて読めないぞ。
I received documents from Napoleon Bonaparte, and I opened my eyes wide. I can read this. I mean, this looks like Japanese.
あれ、わかるな。
お前、何言ってるの？今もフランス語を話してるじゃない。
え？
I look at Napoleon Bonaparte with my eyebrows. Napoleon Bonaparte sent me a suspicious look. What does this mean? I mean, I just noticed that I was told. To me, Napoleon Bonaparte speaks Japanese, and the documents appear to be written in Japanese. On the contrary, for Napoleon Bonaparte, I speak in French, and the documents also appear to be written in French. It's a ridiculous world. But I'm used to it. I had to accept this mysterious phenomena.
とりあえず雑用に支障はないよ。行ってくる。
ええ。帰ってきたら別の仕事を頼むわ。今夜は寝かさないわよ。
If this is a lover, does it sound romantic? I thought for myself, get confused, and I left Napoleon Bonaparte's office to escape. Since then, it's been 2 months since I came to this world.
2ヶ月だよな。
When I say it again, I realize that it's been a long time.
はあ、まさか、こんなにいることになるとは。
I take a big sigh. It is not like I wasn't impatient, but there was some suspicion that I was still dreaming and my feelings were empty. After being placed under the patronage of Napoleon Bonaparte that night, I'm still a chore for Napoleon Bonaparte at the military headquarters. Thankfully, food, clothing, and shelter are secured. The food was still lighter, but this seemed to be French, and I'm getting used to it. However, I don't seem to forget the Japanese roots, and I want to eat white rice. The number of acquaintances with military personnel has increased. I was told by Napoleon Bonaparte to do something, because I'm wandering around the headquarters. There's no such newcomer. I don't have any bullying so far, because I'm a chore with Napoleon Bonaparte, and everyone thinks I'm a depositor, a special person. When I pass someone in the corridor, I will be salute. With this kind of feeling, my daily life in another world, Franz went on. Now I'm on my way home from the documents I received from Napoleon Bonaparte. Looking out the window, it's late at night. I hurried to Napoleon Bonaparte's office.
ただいま。
遅いのよ。
As soon as I opened the door, Napoleon Bonaparte raised her face from the paperwork, raising her eyes. I'm used to it. I didn't react much. I walked up in front of Napoleon Bonaparte.
だってしょうがないだろ。ピエール爺さんがわしの話に付き合っていけって。
ピエールは本当に話しすぎね。まあいいわ。それより夕食が冷めるわよ。
Napoleon Bonaparte stands up and points to the table. This is a potato pottage soup in a plate, cheese, baguette, and there was a liver putty in the coquette. When I saw the food, my stomach suddenly complained that I was hungry. When Napoleon Bonaparte heard that, she just got the idea and nodded.
お前もお腹が空いてるんじゃない？ほら、早く食べるわよ。
はいはい。
I nodded to Napoleon Bonaparte, who beckoned me. Yes, from that night, when I had dinner with her for the first time, Napoleon Bonaparte has made it a daily routine to have dinner with me. Well, I don't feel bad. I feel more calm eating with her here than eating in the cafeteria surrounded by military personnel. It was good that she now eats properly. Maybe it's because I and Marat kept saying, she gets a good night's sleep now. At first she was a pretty short sleeper. Now she is taking normal sleep for 7 hours. Apparently only in this world, the debate over whether Napoleon Bonaparte sleeps long or short both seem to be correct. Because both her diet and sleep have improved, her complexion has improved considerably. It seems that work efficiency has also improved. Everything is going well, that's why.
いただきます。
Napoleon Bonaparte joins hands and I follow. It's Napoleon Bonaparte who has a Japanese style on the board.
今日もなかなか美味しいわ。パテ、好きなのよね。
そういえばじゃがいものスープも好物じゃなかったか？今日はナポレオンの好きなものばっかりだな。
たまには料理長の気が利くじゃない。
We are enjoying to eat supper no matter what. How many times have you eat while talking like this? I can't count it anymore.
お前が来てもう2ヶ月も経つのね。
Suddenly, with a mysterious tone and look, Napoleon Bonaparte muttered.
なあ、早いもんだな。あの夜以来、大した暴動が起きてないのが幸いだよ。
そうじゃないわよ。お前帰りたがってたじゃない。
Napoleon Bonaparte is anxious and glances at me. I inadvertently rounded my eyes.
まさかナポレオンに心配されるとは。
心配ですって？そんなことみじんも思ってないわ。ただちょっと思い出しただけよ。
わかってるよ。ごめんごめん。
I shook my shoulders a little to Napoleon Bonaparte, who argues with a bright red face. I wonder if I could see that it was a little more naive. But Napoleon Bonaparte says it's not in the gala either. Honestly, I feel a little better.
お前はそうやってすぐ突き上がる。これはしっかりした教育的指導が必要ね。
Napoleon Bonaparte has completely in a bad mood now, so I changed the topic immediately.
そういえばさ、お前って他国に遠征とか行かないんだな。
Speaking of Napoleon Bonaparte, it's the war. It is no exaggeration to say that. To Austria, to Italy, and even to Egypt. By winning a series of battles, Napoleon Bonaparte has become popular with the public. But this girl, Napoleon Bonaparte, she never moves from Paris. Of course, the army is going to war. It seems that Napoleon Bonaparte is the main strategy and Murat is in charge. That's the credit of Napoleon Bonaparte for the time being. I was very worried about the difference from the historical facts.
自分は戦争に行かないのか？あ、いや、別に行ってほしいわけじゃないけどさ。
In response to my question, Napoleon Bonaparte blinked her eyes. Then she squeezed her eyebrows.
お前バカなの？世がここを離れたら誰がパリを守るわけ？
え？パリを守る？
As far as I know, nothing invades Paris at this time. No, only one country.
イギリス艦隊。
Since the 100 Years' War in the Middle Ages, France and Britain are in a hostile relationship. The times are a little different, but when Napoleon Bonaparte was on an expedition to Egypt, the French fleet must have been defeated by the British fleet. At that time, even France was in danger. The only place which can put Paris in danger is England.
多少知識はあるようね。
Napoleon Bonaparte said with a bitter look.
そう。世はパリを守護しなければならないの。あの宿敵。
That moment, suddenly a big vibration struck from our feet. Furniture and furnishings float a few centimeters and start moving. The chandelier sways violently from side to side, and the painting hanging on the wall falls. I immediately tried to protect Napoleon Bonaparte, but she stood up without being frightened by the shaking.
噂をすれば来たわね。
Napoleon Bonaparte seemed to know the true nature of this tremor. What is it? Is it just an earthquake?
一体何が来たんだ？何が起こってる？
I'm half confused. Clinging to the chair irresistibly, I asked Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte put on the gloves that were on her desk. She didn't answer my question, and she quickly turned her heel back.
お前は安全なところにいなさい。行ってくる。
おい！
Napoleon Bonaparte flutters her long hair and jumps out of her office. I turn pale, since she showed no sign of conveying an army. No way. She's going alone? I clench my lips. Her thin back wrapped in military uniform passes through my mind. Politics, military service, war, and everything. Napoleon Bonaparte carries on that delicate shoulder out all the time. I hold my feet that are about to run out with the power of will. I don't know what's going on. I just know that a ridiculous threat is approaching Paris. What will happen if I go there without any power? Am I not just a stumbling block? But I bite my back teeth and I stand up. Bite your back teeth. And then I tried to chase Napoleon Bonaparte. I rolled out of the office. When I jumped out of the military headquarters, I went to the city of Paris at night. The city of flowers, which has been peaceful for the past 2 months, is now shrouded in screams and screams. People turn their backs on the square and run away. The scene was reminiscent of that night when I came to this world. I aim for the square against the flow of people. As people move away, it's safe to say that the threat that struck Paris is there. How long did you run through the city where the night book goes down? As soon as my feet stopped, I saw a big square. The outside light of the oil lamp surrounds the outer circumference of the square. There was a familiar back in the brightly lit illuminated square.
Napoleon!
For the first time, I noticed that there were 2 shadows on the square. One is, of course, Napoleon. She bravely pulls out her sword and glares at the center of the square. Oh, this is one of the only times where it doesn't say her last name, too. And the other is a petite shadow floating in the air. It was a young girl. She wore a cute dress and a hat with lace. Her feet are wrapped in tights with a white ribbon. It's like a girl dressed up for a piano recital. From the sky above the center of the square, looking at the cityscape of Paris in a ray of light, it's as if she made this city her own. The girl laughs innocently as her beautifully flowing silver hair flutters in the night breeze. In contrast, Napoleon was alert and looking at her girl. Napoleon declares by pointing at the tip of the sword. I was stunned by the words. I was familiar with her name. Admiral Horatio Nelson, a hero of the Royal Navy. During Napoleon's Egyptian expedition, Nelson destroyed the French fleet and forced Napoleon's army into isolation. That's such a little girl. What's more, she is now boarding to Paris, the capital of France, by herself. The story is already messed up. However, even though this is France, it is a different world where both demons and magic exist. And it is a world where there are humans who bear the names of famous heroes, called the Depositor. I unknowingly accepted the facts in front of me, and I swallowed a sigh. Then Nelson's deep indigo eyes suddenly swept over to me. Napoleon is surprised and looks back over her shoulder, and she looked at me and stuck her astonishment on her face. I don't know what to say, and I was stuck in words. I felt like I couldn't leave it alone. I thought that Napoleon couldn't forgive such an ambiguous answer. Napoleon immediately turned to Nelson, and she moved over her back, and she told me to move. Napoleon's tone exuded frustration. I am reminded that I am in the way of her. Still, I can't move. She clenches her back teeth and leans deeply, clenching her fist.
どうしたの？早く。ねえ、もういい？お兄ちゃんにお姉ちゃん。
Perhaps he thought she was left alone. Nelson stretched out as if she was bored.
私、一生懸命イギリスから飛んできたんだよ。私、一生懸命イギリスから飛んできたんだよ。だから、一緒に遊ぼう。
That word was the beginning. Dozens of thick tentacles appeared from Nelson's back. Sticking to the tapering tentacles are suckers lined up at equal intervals. It was the legs of a black octopus. And at Nelson's feet, a whirlpool began to roll. Of course, Paris is land. However, water is born from somewhere, and it becomes more and more bulky. Nelson laughing happily, like a monster born of the sea.
安全は保証できない。早く戻りなさい。
As soon as she shouted, Napoleon jumped high with a run-up.
Napoleon!
By the time I call her name, she cut through the night sky where the stars are floating and jump up to Nelson in the sky.
ネルソン。そうかなくっちゃ。
Napoleon's sword cut the sky. Nelson effortlessly avoids the quick swashbuckler and stretches out his tentacles to restrain Napoleon.
は？
Napoleon cuts off her tentacles. Nelson frowned.
あ、ひどい。
Apparently the nerves are not connected, and there seems to be no pain or damage on her. And Napoleon doesn't seem to be able to float like Nelson. Her body, which rises high, falls according to gravity. At her feet, a whirlpool of water created by Nelson awaits.
やった。飲まれちゃえ。
Raising her hands and glaring at Nelson, Napoleon shook one arm without a sword.
いでよ。ミトライユーズ。
A glowing black cannon appears beside Napoleon.
発射。
At the same time as the words of absolute command, countless sparks illuminated the night sky of Paris. Don don don, and so on. The sound of firing that echoes at the bottom of the belly echoes around. A high-pitched scream peculiar to a girl rises from the black smoke. Napoleon, on the other hand, clung to mitrailleuse. She uses her recoil to gradually move away from Nelson's sea area. Napoleon then landed in the corner of the square, kicking the ground before the cannon smoke flowed. You guys following this? The moment she tries to leap again, Napoleon's body is grabbed from behind. I saw it. There is a puddle behind Napoleon.
Napoleon! 足元だ!
Napoleon quickly gazes at the ground. There was a small sea there. At the same octopus legs that grow from Nelson are wrapped around Napoleon's legs and torso.
私の海域はこんなこともできるんだよ。すごいでしょ。
Nelson shines his eyes and brags like an elementary school student who got a perfect score on the test. The difference between innocence and madness made him dizzy. I rushed towards Napoleon while holding my head down.
今助けるからな。
バカ。早くここから離れなさいよ。
I'm yelled at by a terrible swordsman, but now I can't hear what I say as usual. I took out the pistol that was held for self-defense and pulled the trigger without hesitation. A bang, a tremendous explosive and recoil hit my body. This is probably Nelson's depositor ability, the so-called apocalypse. I wondered if a mere pistol would be useful for her ability beyond human knowledge, but it was just a melancholy. The pistol bullets struck the base of the octopus's leg, freeing Napoleon's legs.
いや。
Napoleon immediately twists his body and slashes the octopus legs wrapped around the remaining torso with a sword.
へえ。お兄ちゃん、なかなかやるね。
Nelson fluttered down the square without sound, the eyes narrowed like a crescent moon that are somehow directed at me.
お姫様を守る王子様みたい。私もそんな素敵なお兄ちゃんが欲しいな。ほざけ、化け物め。
Napoleon held his sword in front of me again, with me on his back. Nelson smiled innocently at Napoleon, who was not ready for a thorough fight.
ねえ、お姉ちゃん。そのお兄ちゃんを私にくれたら、今日は見逃してあげてもいいよ。
え、俺？
A crazy voice comes out in an unexpected word. It was Napoleon who argued instead of me, who was stunned.
は？なんですって？そんなこと許すわけないでしょ。あれ？くれないの？もしかしてお姉ちゃんの恋人ってやつ？よ迷い事を。ただ正一はそう。今世が保護しているものであって、それはつまりフランス国民も同然なのよ。じゃあ別にいいじゃん。よくない。
Napoleon steps on the groundwork to Nelson, who has a toy-like tone. I was taken aback by the sudden exchange of sisters' quarrels. This is the depositor competing for me? Nelson screamed at Napoleon, who categorically refused to hand over me.
ケチ。ま、いいもんね。
Then it emerges in the sky again.
力ずくでもらっちゃうもん。
In the starry sky behind Nelson, a number of large black vortices emerge.
して、私のフリゲート。
At first I wondered if a stream of water emerges from that sea area, but what came out of it was...
軍艦。
Yes, there was a mini-sized British fleet. Even though it was a mini-size, it is more than double the size of Nelson's body. They have large sails, wide decks, and the barrel of the cannon is lifted to an elevation.
鳥舵いっぱい。
Under Nelson's command, the entire fleet changes its angle and eventually turned to the side. Behind the barrel that glows black is me and Napoleon. I felt my whole body fluffy.
狙いを定めて。
Nelson swung his right hand up and down under her eyes. Countless shells fall overhead with intermittent explosions.
Napoleon!
Knowing that this didn't make sense, I covered Napoleon and tried to protect her from the incoming storm of violence. She's fluffy. I felt like I heard Napoleon's bitter smile near my ears.
だから、正一。
With a complaint. Thick black smoke and heavy impact wrap around the area. I couldn't breathe well and was desperately clenching my teeth. Soon, the night breeze blows and fresh air flows in. I can breathe. My body doesn't hurt anywhere.
ああ、俺、もしかして死んじまったのか。
そんなわけないでしょ。愚か者。
It was Napoleon's voice that resolutely echoed. I opened my tightly closed eyes. There was an incredible sight. Soldiers with large shields surround me and Napoleon. That number was over 100. All shields were pointed upwards to prevent all shells fired by Nelson's fleet. Nelson stiffens her expression.
それは。そう。世のグランドアルミよ。
Napoleon's thin fingers are moved in the air like a conductor. Then in front of her, the light was further wrapped. New soldiers were born there. They were holding muskets at Nelson. That's right, not only Nelson, but Napoleon probably has multiple apocalypses. The Grand Army is a divinely given Napoleon's second ability.
実際の銃とは違って、世のグランドアルミの銃弾はお前の元まで届くわ、エルサ。お前が動いた瞬間、銃弾の雨が空に向かって降り注ぐ。
Nelson laughed with his nose at Napoleon, who shouted dignifiedly.
別に怖くないもんね。けど、ここで戦いを続けると、そこのお兄ちゃんが死んじゃうかもな。 小一は世が守るわ。お前などに指一本触れさせるものか。どうかな。ま、いいや。私、そのお兄ちゃん本気で欲しくなっちゃった。
Nelson says that with her tongue out.
だってとっさにお姉ちゃんをかばったのなかなかかっこよかったもん。
It was when the shell of Nelson's fleet was shot. The moment I heard that, Napoleon might have remembered it, and suddenly her face turned bright red.
そういえばお前、うさくさに紛れて私世に抱きついたわね。
いやいや、だってしょうがないだろ。あの時は俺だって必死で。
問答無用よ。
Even though I'm still in combat, Napoleon grabs my shirt's neck. It's painful. This is unreasonable.
ちょっと私を無視してイチャイチャしないでよ。イチャイチャですって。お前はどこをどう見てるのよ。
Alright, why don't we stop it there? This is audap. You've been watching Napoleon Maiden, Episode 1, a Maiden without the word impossible, running on Nintendo Switch. Yeah, this is incredibly badly translated for English. I'm sure it's certainly fine in native Japanese, though it's kind of hard to say. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.